Kenya is expected to spend $22.8 billion in the next financial year, with most of the allocation going to railway and road development, education and security. We spoke to various stakeholders to get their views on this budget. Take a look. The 2016-2017 Kenyan budget cements what has been an expansionary fiscal policy year after another for the last 5 years, as the government pledges to spend 2.3 trillion shillings. Among the key sectors that will receive the lion's share of the budget include education at 339.3 billion shillings, security at 312.1 billion, general public service at 232.3 billion, infrastructure at 202.7 billion, 181.6 billion for transport, and 122.3 billion shillings for energy.
When you look at the priority areas that the minister was focusing on, the area of security, health, education, and maybe infrastructure, again, they are the right priorities. Just those areas took about a quarter of the funds. So that is, again, clear focus and allocating the funds to the priority areas. So we can say again that we have the right focus in terms of the allocation of these funds.
On infrastructure, the government has allocated 154 billion shillings to the standard gauge railway. According to the government, the railway connecting the port city of Mombasa to Nairobi is 70% complete and will be delivered by June 2017. And to the sectors that will receive the least amount of money include tourism at 4.5 billion shillings, 33.7 billion for social protection, 60.3 billion for health, and 69.6 billion shillings for agriculture and rural urban development.
The budget was fair, assuming that in general the economy has not been very good. So I think it has been fair to all.
The CS has tried so much to think about the farmers. Whatever he has given the agriculture sector is good. And also he has thought about the schools. Yeah, basically those are the major areas that I was thinking about. And basically we hope for the best.
The government plans to raise revenue amounting to 1.5 trillion shillings and will receive grants worth 72.7 billion. This leaves a budget deficit amounting to a staggering 691.5 billion or 6.9% of the GDP. The government hopes to bridge the deficit through concessional loans, internal borrowing of about 225.3 billion shillings, and external borrowing amounting to 150 billion shillings.
I think a deficit budget is a bad thing. It's what one could argue we are living beyond our means, but if you look at the budget structure very well, most of the money is going to investment. We invest in infrastructure, we invest in education, and then we'll get a dividend out of that in the future. So it's not a bad thing to have a budget deficit. Then talking about the level of debt, I know there's been a lot of debate around, are we borrowing too much, are we living beyond our means, why is the debt going? And having studied the budget this year and last year, looks like the government has become disciplined around borrowing specifically for infrastructure projects. So most of the borrowing looks like it's focused towards infrastructure. Our borrowing levels are high, but we're at about 50% of GDP. That's not a bad benchmark. And just put into perspective, most European countries, the US, the UK, their debt as a percent of GDP is north of 70%.
The government has also proposed new tax measures in the next financial year, such as introduction of 10% excise duty on cosmetics and increment of road maintenance levy charged on fuel from 12 to 18 shillings per litre. On the other hand, value-added tax on liquefied petroleum gas has been scrapped. All salaried workers are expected to benefit from a 10% increase in tax relief.
There's a lot more predictability and stability around tax, and the government is quite clear they will not year on year make sort of significant unpredictable changes around tax rates or tax basis. So the last time they did was in 2013 when they came out of the VAT Act, reformed it, and a significant change around what should be taxable in terms of VAT and everything happened. Last year, 2015, was excise, so they will change the structures or what goods, services will be subject to tax, so they changed both rates and basis. Yeah, but even both those acts were subject to public comment and everything before they implemented that. And that is what is required under Chapter 12 of our Constitution. The next reform they're going to be doing is around income tax. So broadly, there's no such thing as who are the big winners or losers, yeah?
So from the proposals that were made, we will find that most of the emphasis was on indirect tax. and this touched on the excise duty, and he thanked the other cabinet secretaries and parliament for supporting the excise duty act that has brought a lot of revenue. We are yet to quantify how much it is, but going forward and putting it on beauty products, and you know our Kenyan ladies like making themselves look beautiful, I think there is a success factor there on his behalf.
The government has also for the second time pledged to introduce a bill in Parliament that will require banks to have a minimum operating capital of 5 billion shillings from the current 1 billion. The move is expected to strengthen the financial sector, according to the government.
They need to build capacity, particularly around forensics, audits, around technology and everything, to better regulate that sector. Yeah, so they're doing that. They're also recognizing within the players there, they need to come out with better governance practices. So you can only do that if you're a certain size. Yeah, so you need to be at a certain minimum critical size before you can have effective corporate governance structures, effective processes in place, and segregation between directors, managers, between owners, and everything. And that's what they're doing.
The CBK is for inclusivity. I think Treasury is for big banks. And look at most of the Commonwealth countries, their systems are structured around big banks. Look at the UK, big dominant banks. If you look at South Africa, big dominant banks. This was done in Nigeria also, where they were able to move from banks that were north of 70 to 20. So we've got also large banks. And there are benefits for that. But of course, there's also the issue of inclusivity. Big banks are not good for everybody. Small banks are good because you're fighting niches and they're able to serve those segments.